Hey, what's up? If you're here, you probably wonder what is the best royalty-free music licensing platform for YouTube in 2026 and beyond. And good news, you got the right guy. I've been using almost all music licensing services for multiple years now, and I reviewed most of those platforms in the past, and ever since people keep on asking me like, hey, what do you recommend this year? What is the update in 2026? What is hot? Should I cancel all of my subscriptions? So in this video, I'll give you my honest opinion, okay? And I want to make it as short as possible because I value your time. So I selected 6 of the most well-known platforms, namely Artlist, Epidemic Sound, Audio, Soundstripe, Upbeat, and MusicBed. There are a couple more, but they're not worth it in my opinion. That's why I haven't included them, okay? Now, quick disclaimer, a lot of those platforms have approached me or sponsored videos in the past, but my opinion is definitely my own, and I won't recommend anything that I personally don't like or use, okay? Plus, if you find that this review has helped your purchase decision, I'll leave affiliate links below for each service, which allows me to buy coffee so I can stay awake and edit those videos late at night, okay? So in order to determine a ranking, I put the services side by side in a matrix that outlines the basic facts about each service, and I'll give a score for each feature, and in the end we'll sum up the score to determine a winner by points, okay? So let's start with the most important metric, and that is quantity. In other words, how many songs are available on each platform, and that ranges from the 10,000s for most of the services. MusicBed stands out here as they claim they got 70,000 tracks, and on the bottom end, Audio has the smallest selection, and Soundstripe, Artlist, and Epidemic Sound are somewhat in the middle, okay? Cool. Now, quantity is usually quite closely aligned with quality, because you can have 1 million songs, but if all of them are mediocre, then it doesn't really help that much, because you'll waste a lot of time searching for crappy songs basically. So here's a quality score for each service, and keep in mind that is a little bit subjective because taste differs in the end. And overall, I personally didn't really like Upbeat or Soundstripe all that much, so they only get 5 points here. But once again, it is subjective. I find Audio has really decent quality considering they have much fewer tracks, and both Epidemic and Artlist are very solid, so they score 9 points each. On these platforms, I think you seldomly find a boring track, and what distinguishes them is usually their style of music. So on Artlist, for example, I tend to find more cinematic music very easily, and if I look for more serious tracks for clients and so on. On Epidemic, I think it is very well suited for YouTube with usually more playful music. So it works great for this like social media use case in my opinion. However, one platform that really stands out quality-wise is MusicBed, because they got some really awesome tracks that I personally find better than average. So they get 11 points here. But there's a massive downside to MusicBed, and we'll get to that in just a bit. Now the next feature is called stems, and that is a really important one for me personally, and that means the function to dissect a music track by instrument and basically be able to kind of remix it by muting the vocals or the bass or whatever other element. And that is super convenient, and in my opinion a must-have for easier audio workflow. It used to be a signature feature of Epidemic Sound, but nowadays most of the services actually started to offering it, and they score 9 to 10 points depending on how many stems you can download. Now, the next factor is pricing, and that's a really big one because we all want a good deal, and most of the services score really well on pricing this year, because back in the days it used to differ a lot, and now they became all quite competitive in my opinion. So Epidemic, Artlist, and Upbeat are all priced around the $10 mark for the personal plan, plus minus a few dollars, so they all score almost full marks. Now Audio stands out here with 10 points because they are the only service that offers lifetime pricing, which is $199, which is also really good value for money. Now there are 2 services that kind of stand out negatively in my opinion. And those are MusicBed and Soundstripe. Their services start at $30 for social media use only, which is about triple the price of other services. Remember, as I said, MusicBed has really decent quality, but if I want to use it for YouTube, do I really want to pay triple the price compared to other services? Probably not. And what makes it worse, in my opinion, is the fact that the pricing is also quite intransparent. So for instance, if I want to use it for YouTube, then they ask, oh, how many subscribers do you have? And it might increase. If I'm a regular filmmaker and I only want to use it for my personal projects, then I easily find myself at $99 per month, which is not very competitive, and hence why I can give only 1 point here. That brings me to the next talking point, which is commercial pricing. That means if you want to make a project for a client, that usually requires a different license, and that tends to cost a little bit more. And Artlist is traditionally the OG here, because very early on, when commercial song licenses were super expensive, they had the most flexible and best plans by far. So the others had to catch up with that and kind of lower their commercial prices, and they mostly score decent now. Again, audio gets an extra point, 11 points here, because yeah, you pay only once per lifetime. You can even use it commercially for your clients, and that's a really sweet deal. Unfortunately, I can't say the same for MusicBed, so again, really underwhelming and no points here. So if we sum up all of the scores for the core features, then we got Artlist and Epidemic Sound leading with 46 points respectively, followed by audio, and the other two services are all around the 20-point mark. Cool. But there are other features that I have to talk about, so I extended the matrix with more categories, and they score 3 points each. So let's start with sound effects. Now, in the beginning, all of those services would offer this as an upgrade, but a couple of years in, it is mostly included for free in most of the pricing tiers, so each platform scores 3 points here. Next is a feature which is called Clear List, and that is a really important one, because the last thing you want is a copyright strike on YouTube. And again, most of the services are very reliable and I never had any issues. The next feature is called plugins, and that is a direct connection with your editing software of choice, meaning you can download the music and sound effects from within Premiere, and Epidemic, Artlist and Soundstripe have this feature. The others don't. Soundstripe has it for Premiere Pro only, Epidemic for Premiere and DaVinci Resolve, and Artlist scores double because they got plugins for Premiere, Final Cut, DaVinci and even After Effects. Cool. The next feature is Spotify, and that is super underrated in my opinion. What it allows you to do is you can curate music while you're not in front of your computer and editing, particularly useful, and Epidemic is the winner here. And lastly is AI search, and all of the services offer that, but I personally find it a little bit gimmicky, don't use it all that much. So everyone gets full score for that anyway, okay? If we look at the scoreboard, both Epidemic and Artlist are still leading with 61 points respectively. Audio fell a little bit behind with 45 points, and nothing really changed with the other three, and they are all around the 30-point mark and score significantly lower. So if you wanted to make a purchase decision just based on that alone, I would recommend Epidemic as my social media choice, Artlist for both social media and commercial filmmakers, and audio as a budget choice if you're just getting started. Now, Upbeat and Soundstripe, I thought they seemed decent, but didn't really stand out all that much to me. And as I said, MusicBed is really amazing quality-wise, but if all the other services are like a third of the price, then it's kind of hard to justify like paying up for their service. But we also gotta look into the future and assess this music licensing industry and the direction it is taking in 2026. And what I noticed is that these services started to offer brand new features, and most of the time it involves utility that goes beyond only music. Because let's be honest, filmmaking on social media has evolved quite a lot as well. So for instance, companies like Artlist even go so far and don't consider themselves a pure music licensing company anymore, but instead a full asset licensing service instead. So I want to expand on 5 more features that are being introduced and made for the future. And I personally find great use for them. Now, please keep in mind, you usually get charged extra if it goes beyond the scope of only music licensing. I know it's a bit like comparing apples and oranges, but we can't ignore these new trends. And before I tell you my opinion what makes most sense, MusicBed and Soundstripe offer none of these new features. It seems like they have decided to stay purely within the realms of music licensing. Okay, fair enough. Now, Artlist and Upbeat offer color grading presets and editing templates, so they get 5 points respectively. The next category are AI generated voiceovers, and only Artlist and Epidemic offer this service. The next category is called stock video, and the only service that offers that is Artlist. And last but not least are AI photo and video generation. Again, Artlist is the only service that offers that and gets 10 extra points here. Now keep in mind, AI generation usually comes with a bit of limitation. That means you usually can't generate unlimited amounts of these images and videos. If you run out of credit, then you gotta recharge, and that costs a little bit extra. Now, what is my verdict? If we assess the music licensing only, which was the objective of this video, you should absolutely not cancel your existing subscription. I think it is very worth it having access to these services in 2026. On the contrary, I think music licensing is still extremely useful, and most of these services you'll find great utility. As I said, I personally like the music style of Artlist and Epidemic. If we go beyond only music, it gives Artlist almost like an unfair advantage. But once again, it is quite easy to score more points if you got more features to offer. So it is a bit like comparing apples and oranges, okay? With that said, if this has helped your purchase decision, check out my affiliate links below. It helps me to finance this channel, and thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in one of the next videos.